Welcome back, everyone. Hope you're doing amazing. We have a Mr. Beat video upon us. This one is called Every Time the United States Overthrew a Foreign Government. There's probably more fingers. Sorry, I'm going to probably need some more fingers to count how many times we did that. We did that like just a second ago, too, like 20 days ago. Let's jump right in. Mr. Beat.
Who's overthrowing governments? I'm not overthrowing governments.
Our country is.
I'm Mr. Beat. Come on. Y'all know me. Still same old G. I ain't got time for that. But guess who has overthrown governments?
United States government.
The United States government. Like, a lot.
Regime change.
It's called regime change.
Is it in America's best interests to have regime change in Iran?
And these wasteful regime change wars.
President Trump now appearing to entertain the idea of a regime change in Iran, with Trump posting online, if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change?
Oh, regime change? The United States definitely knew her.
A coup, which is short for coup d'etat, is a sudden, forceful, and illegal overthrow of a government.
We've done that a lot.
In this video, let's look at every time the United
Every time. Oh, man. I'm probably not going to know all these, but some I might.
States did a coup, or heavily influenced a coup.
How many times has the United States overthrown a foreign government?
Well, estimates range from 14 all the way up to more than 100.
So it depends on what we call an overthrow and how much influence we had.
According to my own estimates, there have been 26, at least 26 worth mentioning.
We have a bit of breaking news that has just come in. Right now, the Iranian state media is telling the people of Iran that the Ayatollah has been killed.
Oh, okay. According to my own estimates, there have been 27? At least 27 worth mentioning.
Obviously, this is very recent news, so we're kind of living in this with the death of the Ayatollah in Iran, and this is part of the regime change. Is it really regime change if the same government's in power? I don't know. I don't think that's what we would call regime change just because someone died. However, let's count it.
Yeah, I know. That's a lot.
And these were the successful coups, not the ones that failed. Because there are so many, I'll keep it brief for each one. We'll break it up into 3.
Before he does it, I think there's going to be a lot of Eastern European, South American, Latin American, and Middle Eastern, and then maybe South Pacific, Eastern, Southeast Asia. That's probably where the main 4 areas of contention are.
Periods. The Imperial Expansion Era, the Cold War Era, and the War on Terrorism.
Okay. So we're going to be dealing with, people all the way from 93. So we're going to be looking at people like McKinley, Roosevelt, even into, I forget who's in 2024, Harding and so forth. And then we're going to take it from Truman up until George H.W. Bush. And then 1994, obviously, is Clinton to present-day Trump.
Era.
Alrighty then. Here's every time the United States overthrew a foreign government.
That is probably the worst particular sound effect you could have used, sir.
Oh, I should mention that we know of. Here's every time the United States overthrew a foreign government that we know of.
Chronologically speaking?
So far.
Okay, so we're going to chronologically. I like that.
During the imperialism expansion era, the United States was a bit more brazen with their imperialism. They didn't try to hide it.
I mean, nobody really tried to hide it then. This was just trying to match Europe. This is where we got to start. Hawaii. With the Queen, overthrowing the Queen.
On January 17th, 1893, American and European businessmen, with aid from the United States military, overthrew Queen Liliuokalani because her Hawaii First policy basically threatened their profits. Now, many don't realize the United States didn't annex
Did they have an isolationist policy, similar like to Japan in 1850 whatever?
the islands until more than 5 years later. In the meantime, these business leaders just started their own government there. As you probably already know, Hawaii eventually became a state, but the overthrow of the
Yeah, in 1959.
Hawaiian Kingdom remains one of the most controversial land grabs
Or was
in
it 49?
American history.
Over the next several decades, the United States went bananas with the Banana Wars,
Banana republics down in Latin America.
a series of American interventions in Central America and islands in the Caribbean Sea.
Most famous, Honduras.
Hold on, I gotta take this. Hello? No. No.
The name Banana Wars was popularized by a historian named Lester Langley, who wrote multiple books on American intervention in Latin America, and he called them that since many of these interventions protected the United Fruit Company.
Something that's still in, it's still out there today.
Which made a lot of money off of, you guessed it, bananas.
Colombia, okay.
In 1903, after Colombia wouldn't let the United States build a canal through this part of their territory, the United States government encouraged Panamanian rebels who lived in the area to declare independence. The American
That's right, because Colombia used to have Panama, obviously. That's something that's such an interesting fact.
president at the time, Theodore Roosevelt, sent warships to block Colombian troops from stopping the revolt. And yep, after the Panamanians gained independence, the new country of Panama almost immediately signed a favorable canal treaty with the United States.
Such a vulnerable people.
Also in 1903,
This is what I was talking about. The Banana Republic. This is where you get that from.
The United States military supported a coup by Manuel Bonilla, who was more friendly to American business interests like the aforementioned United Fruit Company. Over the following years, the American military would repeatedly protect Bonilla from other attempted coups.
ah yes, Honduras, the original Banana Republic.
Cuba. This was, of course, Spanish-American War. And
Well, the United States originally acquired Cuba after defeating another imperial power, Spain, in the Spanish-American War. At first, the United States promised Cuba they'd have independence.
But then the Americans just wouldn't.
Yeah, this is how long. Think about it. Trump said this like 3 days ago that he's going to be able to be one of the first presidents to have Cuba, and this has been 126 years in the making of Cuban sovereignty being threatened by the United States. It's crazy. And then even before that, it was obviously threatened by Spain. What a wild roller coaster.
Go away.
Congress passed the Platt Amendment, which said the United States could intervene anytime it wanted to against a government it did not approve of.
Crazy, man.
And it did just that.
Is that specific to like the Monroe Doctrine, or is that specific to anything?
The American military hung around Cuba until 1909.
Hey, speaking of 1909,
Nicaragua.
That year, the United States helped overthrow President Jose Santos Zelaya because he wanted to build a canal across the country that competed with.
That's such a great, this is just greed at that point, right? This is just greed, which greed, if greed is one of the 7 deadly sins, right? So if we took away greed from the world, how life might have been.
With the Panama Canal. And yeah, Zelaya threatened American business interests. American soldiers would support rebels and ended up occupying the country on and off for the next 2 decades. I hate to break it to you, but every
W
time
ad.
then about they and it's out there, mystery.com during this video.
Mexico. Okay, this is the Mexican Revolution that turns into something of itself. This is also one of the first places where you see aerial warfare by the United States.
In 1913,
with planes.
Henry Lane Wilson, the U.S. ambassador to Mexico, and of no relation to his boss,
Yeah, I was about to say, is there any relation there?
President Woodrow Wilson, was very involved helping overthrow the democratically elected president of Mexico, Francisco Madero, who threatened American oil interests. Well, Woodrow Wilson would end up firing Henry Lane Wilson, but he kept American forces there anyway after continued instability in the country over the next few years in what became known as the Mexican Revolution.
All right. Just 5 years later, Haiti.
In 1915, American troops straight up invaded and occupied Haiti.
So far, everything's been in the Western Hemisphere. So far.
After a mob killed the country's president, Vilbren Sam.
You see, American banks had lent a lot of money to Haiti, and they wanted the American military to get that money back. Hey, eyes down here, buddy. Why are you staring at my forehead anyway?
Why'd you put it up there?
Pervert.
The Americans disbanded Haiti's army and controlled local politics in the country for
That's a crazy photo, bro.
years.
Now we're in the Dominican Republic, the other side of Hispaniola. I said that probably wrong.
On May 15th, 1916, American troops landed in Haiti's neighbor to the east, the Dominican Republic, to, quote, restore order, and then promptly ran the government.
Well, the real reason why they were there was to protect an American-owned sugarcane plantation.
A plantation with indentured servants?
They sidelined locally elected leaders and installed American-friendly military leaders in their place. The United States military would occupy the Dominican Republic until September 18th, 1924.
You don't hear about that. So 9 years, 8 years of doing that?
Hey Matt, Che Guerrero here, fellow content creator and Dominican who can speak a little more in depth about this topic if you don't mind.
Of course, of course.
This is cool. I like the crossovers.
Thanks. The American military had actually previously intervened in the Dominican Republic in 1903. Due to the multiple rebellions, the United States sent naval ships to protect American property and interest in the nation. They left shortly after, but returned several times, such as in 1914, when the Navy intervened to stop another rebellion and oversee the next elections. Fun fact, if you can call it that, during this era, FDR was a key architect of Wilson-era
Yeah, he looks young there.
naval occupations in the Caribbean, setting up the Dominican Constabulary and the Hyena training schools that shaped the military career of DR's longest-serving dictator, Rafael Trujillo. I'll be back later, just like the U.S., because the U.S. comes back after we stop Trujillo.
Thanks, Che. You can
Wow. Stuff we never knew.
imagine this led to a lot of anti-American sentiment throughout Latin America.
Well, props to the American presidents Calvin Coolidge, Herbert Hoover, and Franklin Roosevelt, who mostly ended regime changes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Hoover and FDR, in particular, implemented what became known as the Good Neighbor policy, in which the United States pledged to respect the sovereignty of its...
Wasn't Hoover, we watched the video the other day on the Boxer Rebellion, Hoover was in China during a lot of like the craziness, so maybe that kind of like, you know, instilled some interesting morality to him, seeing firsthand what that looked like.
Neighbors and avoid direct military intervention in Latin America. No more military occupations.
But then World War II happened, and
The Cold War era. So we're starting with Truman here in 1953. No, we're starting with Eisenhower.
during the Cold War, the United States got more sneaky with the coups, and of course it was all in the name of stopping the spread of...
Bro, it's just eating the banana now.
communism. This is a little ripe.
course, one of the most infamous places in the world. Here we go. We did it before.
Yeah, this one's a bit more famous. In 1953, after Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh nationalized British-controlled oil,
they didn't like that. And this is heavily, this is heavily not just the United States, but also the United Kingdom involved in this.
hurting American companies. The Central Intelligence Agency, or CIA, as well as the MI6, the
MI6 is
British Secret Intelligence Service, paid mobs, bribed officials, and spread propaganda to cause chaos in the country. Eventually, they aided in a straight-up coup of Mossadegh, replacing him with Mohammad Reza Pahlavi,
the Shah.
a king more friendly to American business interests. Pahlavi would rule with an iron fist, and the people of Iran would eventually revolt against him in what became known as the Iranian Revolution. Which
is literally kind of like the breadcrumbs of where we're at today. With 1953, this happens, and the Shah is instilled, and then as absolute power. And then in 1979, obviously the Ayatollah takes over, and literally a year later, the Shah dies. And then we have two Ayatollahs since 79, and now we're on our third.
led to the Iranian hostage crisis.
I don't think we have done that video. We got to do it soon.
Oh, yeah.
Especially since we're talking Iran so much recently.
I have a video about that.
Guatemala. Now this is really, I believe, this might have to be done during the Cold War. Obviously, that's what we're talking about. But this probably has to do more about that domino theory of communism spreading into our hemisphere. Let's see what it was.
In 1954, Guatemala's president, Jacobo Arbenz, began to take unused property from the aforementioned United Fruit Company to give it to poor farmers.
Oh, we can't have that. We can't have reforms.
In response, the CIA aided rebels, ran radio psyops, and bombed targets to scare Arbenz into resigning.
That's crazy, bro.
This was actually the second time the United States tried to overthrow their government. The first time, 2 years prior, was unsuccessful. A military dictatorship followed, sparking decades of civil war and mass killings.
The DRC. Okay, so we're finally going somewhere. I mean, we did talk about Iran in 1953, but now we're in Africa for the first time. 1960. This is going to be Eisenhower still in 1960. Kennedy will take over in 61.
In 1960, after the Congo gained independence from Belgium, citizens there elected Patrice Lumumba as their prime minister. Well, the United States feared he was a bit too friendly with the Soviet Union.
And this is all in the name of proxy warfare, probably.
The CIA would help Belgium assassinate him, and eventually the dictator Mobutu Sese Seko took over and terrorized the country for more than 30 years.
How many times does this happen before we learn our lesson? All right, now we're back at the Dominican Republic, of course.
On May 30th, 1961, rebels ambushed and assassinated Rafael Trujillo, the dictator of the Dominican Republic. And guess who supplied weapons to the people who assassinated him?
The CIA?
The CIA.
The CIA. Always playing both sides. Hi, Che again. Missed me? In 1963, the Dominican Republic held elections and Juan Bosch came into power as president of the Dominican Republic as part of the Dominican Revolutionary Party. This made the conservatives on the island very nervous. They saw Bosch taking land from the rich landowners,
similar to what we just saw in Guatemala,
creating a more liberal and less secular constitution, and allowing the Communist Party to grow. Also, and most importantly, limiting the power of the military. That last one was the nail on the coffin for Bosch's presidency. This led to the far right of the Dominican Republic removing Bosch in what they called a bloodless coup, which replaced him with a military junta. This led to a civil.
This is interesting. It's almost like in the Roman times when, you had a leader that did not pay respect to the bodyguard, the Imperial Guard. My brain is all over the place right now, so I can't remember the name of what that is called. But you guys know what I'm talking about. If you know what I'm talking about, it's crazy.
War in April 1965. Side note, my grandmother was born in the Dominican Republic in 1933, 3 years into Trujillo's dictatorship. When the Civil War broke out and it seemed like Bosch was going to come back into power, she remembers having hope that her country can have a real people's revolution. However, my grandma's hopes, like millions of others, were dashed when the U.S. intervened in the Civil War and imposed a political transition that first led to a provisional president, Hector Garcia Godoy, and then to the election of Joaquin Balaguer.
So I'm guessing this election was 1000% messed with.
Who was Trujillo's vice president.
Oh, that's not sus at all.
Balaguer was president of the Dominican Republic in 1988, when I was born in the Dominican Republic, and stopped being president in 1996. My first 8 years of life were under a dictator that the U.S. helped install, just like the one my grandmother lived under that the U.S. helped install.
What do they say? History repeats itself.
I am living proof that the damage that the U.S. has inflicted in Latin America is not such ancient history.
Wow. All right, we're back in South America. Well, I don't know. Have we been in South America yet? Yeah, we were with Colombia. So we're in Ecuador now.
After Jose Maria Velasco Ibarra, the president of Ecuador, got a little too friendly with communist Cuba, the CIA used propaganda, forged documents, and straight-up bribery to overthrow him on November 7th, 1961.
Oh, those Bay of Pigs have already occurred. The Cuban-Soviet-American relations are horrendous. So we're going to try to make sure there's no supporting adversaries out there.
2 years later, anti-communist rebels within Ecuador overthrew the next president, Carlos Julio Arosemena Monroy, after he too was a bit too friendly with Cuba.
Iraq in 1963. So we did Iran 10 years earlier. Now it's Iraq.
There is growing evidence that the CIA also helped plan and carry out the overthrow of Abdul Karim Qasim, who was then executed by firing squad on February 9th, 1963. Qasim had been open to closer ties to the Soviet Union.
That'll do it. That's a death sentence, man.
And communism.
How many times, this just is so evident. One thing he's not saying is what happened next. A lot of these are obviously, people getting overthrown or things happening to certain nations, but what happens in some of these were explained, like the Dominican Republic, but for a lot of these, what actually happened? And we know about Iran, but I'm gonna go back again.
There is growing evidence that the CIA also helped plan and carry out the overthrow of Abdul Karim Qasim, who was then executed by firing squad on February 9th, 1963. Qasim had been open to closer ties to the Soviet Union and communism.
So, okay. Whatever happened next. Brazil.
After Brazil's president, João Goulart, pushed for land reform.
It's always land reform. Golly.
And more worker rights. This freaked out, you guessed it, American business interests. In early 1964, the United States provided logistics and military aid to help rebels overthrow Goulart and install a harsh military dictatorship which would rule for the next 21 years.
So this all started in the Gilded Age, and it's just exacerbated since the Cold War. Guyana, another South American country.
The CIA helped Britain overthrow Cheddi Jagan, the chief minister of what was...
Because this used to be British territory, I believe.
British Guiana at the time. After Jagan got elected, he became a bit too cozy with Marxism and the Soviet Union.
It's always the same thing. These are all proxies to the Soviet Union. Another South American country.
After Bolivia's president, Juan Jose Torres, became friendly with Cuba and
It's always one of the two.
nationalized the country's mines, the CIA gave intelligence and other aid to rebels. On August 21st, 1971,
Of course, this is a POV from Mr. Beat and his research and probably a lot of other objective sources, but very curious to see if there was other variables at play for these people to be overthrown, besides cozying up to communism.
these rebels ultimately overthrew Torres and replaced him with Hugo Banzer, who, you guessed it also, would rule Bolivia as a brutal dictator for the next 7 years. Although strangely later in the 1990s, he'd returned to power after Bolivians elected him.
That's happened before, way more than you think. Elected him, by the way, quote unquote. Maybe. Another South American country. So the domino effect in the Western Hemisphere was averted thanks to the CIA.
Well, Chileans elected a socialist named
And you already screwed up. You already screwed up, Chile.
Salvador Allende as their president after he nationalized the copper mines and threatened American business interests. The CIA caused chaos by disrupting the economy and giving millions of dollars to rebels for them to conduct military strikes. On September 11th, 1973, Chilean military rebels bombed the palace and killed Allende.
My God.
Augusto Pinochet took over as a brutal dictator and would routinely torture and disappear citizens over the next 17 years.
How is that any better? It's all rooted in greed, as you guys know.
Yeah, I think these are starting to sound redundant.
Granada.
On October 25th, 1983, the United States military, along with a coalition of 6 different Caribbean countries, straight up invaded the country of Grenada to
Is it Grenada or Granada? I don't know.
overthrow its Marxist government. Officially, President Ronald Reagan said the invasion was to protect American medical students. But we now know the main goal was actually to stop Soviet influence. The United States installed a more American-friendly government. Most of the world condemned the invasion of Grenada, but most Americans actually approved of it at the time.
Well, it's all about propaganda and concerning the citizens, you know? You don't want to actually tell them the reason. Panama. Oh, Oriega. Is that Oriega? Oriega? I think it's Oriega. Daniel Oriega.
On December 20th, 1989, President George H.W. Bush sent thousands of American troops to overthrow and arrest Manuel
Noriega. This feels very similar to like Maduro.
Noriega, a former CIA asset turned drug-running dictator.
Operation Just Cause.
Yep, that's what it was called. It's called what?
No, seriously, that's what the United States called it. Operation Just Cause.
Yep.
Noriega had become a bit too defiant and was threatening American interests near the Panama Canal. It was a quick, somewhat massive military operation that lasted less than 6 weeks and ended with Noriega in an American prison.
But by then, the Cold War was winding down, bringing
like 2 years later. So we should be entering the age of the war on terrorism.
us to a new era.
Putin is a war criminal, and that reminds me. Happy 20th anniversary. Oh my. Haiti. Again.
Operation Uphold Democracy. No, seriously, the United States called it Operation Uphold Democracy. So cringe, bruh.
In 1994, President Bill Clinton sent 25,000 troops to, quote, convince Haitian military leaders under the command.
Convince with what? Force? That's not convincing. That's trying to start a war.
of Joseph Raul Cedras to step down without a fight. In his place returned Jean-Bertrand Aristide, who was overthrown 3 years prior, despite being democratically elected. It was a rare case of the United States intervening to restore a democracy it liked. What's also interesting about this coup was that there is some evidence that suggests the CIA may have helped Aristide be overthrown the first time. Oops. On
I mean, CIA plays both sides always. We already know that.
February 29th, 2004, military rebels overthrew Aristide from power again, and he and others later accused the United States for playing a role in it. But then 9/11 happened, and everything changed.
Yes, it did. The good war is what we call the Afghanistan coup. Let's see what happens in his analysis there.
On September 11th, 2001, a group known as Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 airplanes to launch coordinated terrorist suicide attacks on American soil, known as the September 11th attacks, or simply 9/11, which I have a video about.
We haven't done that either. Something we got to do in the future.
Duh. In response to these horrific attacks, the United States invaded Afghanistan to topple the Taliban regime because they were harboring Al-Qaeda. The United States teamed up with the Northern Alliance, a group of Afghan rebels, to quickly take control of the country. This began the longest war in American history.
20 years.
The war in Afghanistan, which ended with the Taliban returning to power in 2021.
It's cyclical. It's cyclical. Venezuela, 2002.
On April 11th, 2002, rebels overthrew Venezuela's president, Hugo Chavez. There is some evidence that American diplomats helped organize it. However, the coup was short-lived. Like, really short-lived. Chavez was back in power within 48 hours.
Wow. Of course, this one's probably one of the most famous ones of all times, just because of what happens to Saddam and how this could have happened in 1990 or 89, one of the two.
On March 20th, 2003, American troops led an invasion of Iraq to overthrow Saddam Hussein, the country's brutal dictator. How did the United States justify this invasion? And
WMDs that were not found. There was no evidence of so. And yeah, and the other side of it was like, oh, Saddam Hussein's, you know, we don't want that. It's similar to like I guess Ecuador in the same video, where you have you know, the Taliban and Al-Qaeda more say in the region being operatives of terrorism, and Saddam Hussein, there is, you know, not empirical but anecdotal evidence that he is and they are somehow helping Al-Qaeda.
Overthrow? Well, President George W. Bush and his administration had claimed Saddam had weapons of mass destruction and ties to terrorists. No such weapons were ever found, but American soldiers did capture Saddam and eventually executed him. The invasion destabilized the entire region and led to a long, bloody insurgency. Oh, I also have a video about the Iraq War.
Of course you do. Libya, another recent one. Gaddafi. I don't know when he took over, but he took over a while ago.
In 2011, both American and NATO air power helped rebels overthrow the dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Yeah. And boy, did those rebels, yeah, they took care of him. Sure, the mission was officially to, quote, protect civilians, but it just quickly turned into yet another regime change operation.
And Libya's always been a mess in terms of their divide, all the way since the scramble of Africa, just because of the lines that were drawn and different ethnic groups in that region. There has not been a centralized authority, which has created this, you know, toil of systems since then.
Libya fragmented into rival governments and has basically been in constant chaos ever since.
Really, ever since like the 1880s, 1890s, even. Well, I mean, there was some sort of like control during occupation, but even after that.
And here's some very recent history.
Recent, yeah, like I was in this like January 3rd or something like that.
On January 3rd, 2026, American forces carried out a military strike in Venezuela that resulted in the capture of Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife, Celia Flores. President Donald Trump announced that the United States would oversee a new government and is currently holding Maduro and Flores in prison as they await trial for illegal drug-related charges.
Similar to Noriega in terms of like, that's the parallel I'm drawing right there.
So that's it, I think.
No. Nope. Iran.
Oh crap, there's another one.
You might have to make a part 2 in the future.
Yep, literally as I was making this video, the United States and Israel launched strikes on Iran that killed Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and around 40 senior members of
And that's increased since then too.
the country's regime.
Why? Well, I don't know if we have a good grasp as to why yet.
We don't.
But that's it. That's every time the United States overthrew a foreign government, I think. Yeah, I hope. I hope that's
Wait! No.
every time the United States has overthrown.
Wow. Well, that, what do you guys think? That's crazy, isn't it? There's gonna be more times in the future, probably. But at the end of the day, we gotta figure out a way to learn from history, right? And obviously, the United States is not the only culprit of ever doing this. This has happened forever, always, right? This has always been a thing in history. This particularly was around the United States. It seems like most of these were due to greed or Soviet proxy. Now, those are really the two main ones. The new world that we live in, where you have Venezuela and Iran, I don't know. Maybe there's more to it than meets the eye. But I'm open to hearing anyone out. I appreciate you guys as always. Until next time, peace out.